let's take off. Now, despite all the rust spots, they don't hit. They're there. But aside from the every now and then spitting out a piece of sand, they are just fine. I will prefer for them to be lapped out as I get further along. That was me twisting and touching the karochi. That scraping sound. Now this stone will probably wipe out that facet pretty quick, or at least blend it in, so to speak, you know, actually wiping it out with something this fine. See how generously dark and thick that slurry is? And that was a very slight slurry raise. I mean, it wasn't enough to really be a whole lot, but it was plenty to make this thing take off like a race car. You can see purples, a lot of purples in this stone. I really liked this stone for this reason. All the color. It's a renge suita, but it's definitely a shiro as well. It's very, very white everywhere else. Or I should say almost a whitish cream color, which is very common with Okudo. Now, I've got to experience some of the newer Okudo. So apparently the mine rights were bought, and someone is mining from it again. And I've seen them on the market, and I've actually bought one before, and I can do another video on that one. And that one is actually while this is a fine stone, it's actually finer than this stone, and it's almost as fast. It's just smaller. This is a pretty classic full size 30 size, and size 30 or 40, and the other is a copa. So this one will draw more attention, more money, just for the fact that it's more of a perfect stone. Aesthetics. It's a little bit fascinating. Almost gone. Looks pretty good there. Now to play, see if I were to add a huge amount of slurry to this thing, which there seems to be a little bit already generated, but it's so wet that you can't tell. Now they say not to use a Tomo on a Suita because the grit particles can get caught in the Suita holes, the air pockets, and then come out to get you later. I guess that would matter in a full water polish, and you were just wanting to burnish off the stone and it kicked out something that was slightly coarse, grit. But generally, I don't think it matters. Now, Tomo slurries can make a lot of a difference on the finish too sometimes. As long as you stay, or you're using it while that slurry is on there, eventually as you wipe off and rinse off and stuff like that, you don't have it anymore. Looks pretty good. Say that facet will always be there until I really work it out on coarse stones. It's almost not there, but it's there enough. Now if I took this to even softer stones, it would just not exist. You would not be able to see it at all. But, these are fairly hard stones. They're just soft for me because I use a lot of finishing stones in a polish. Like this bevel here, except for this little rust spot that happened from my fingers the other day, it can take any polish you want. I can lay that on any Nakayama and pull off a beautiful polish. I mean, there's nothing wonky about the geometry there, but just sometimes in the grind, you take off a little bit more than you want, and it's hard to get that geometry to be consistent without affecting the rest of the bevel, because it doesn't affect it till you get here. And a lot of times I also notice that happening at the swoop up of the edge. So as you're making this wide bevel, follow the edge basically as evenly as possible across. This will swoop up too, and maintaining that turn with the geometry, especially the way I do it, is very difficult. So that happens sometimes, but then it also doesn't happen sometimes. So, it's all about the beginning stages and getting things ready for the final stages later, like these. You can see there's not a whole lot of swarf on here. This was doing a lot of polishing as opposed to eating metal. Even with the slurry, that is totally shobu. Shobudani mine. They can be very fast stones, but I have found them to be very, I want to say very, but slower, and they focus more on polishing. So they cut slower, but do a hell of a good polish. And so you'll see the slurry on a Shobudani, which I have, and it stays lighter in color as opposed to dark. It kicks up enough stone particle that it just overpowers the color of the steel that it's heating away. And it's a very fine particle too, despite that softness, but you won't see it turn inky black usually on a lot of the polishing type, as you would on other stones like Okudo or Nakayama, despite their proximity to each other at the mine. Beautiful stones. I love Okudo. I'd like to get more of them. Of course, right now my mind's really been set on Kita. I've kind of taken a pause on buying many more Suita, unless they're just interesting, or they're Uchi-Omori. I'll invest in Uchi, but you know, Uchi and Kita right now are my main concern right now. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed. That was a little bit longer than I was expecting, and not a whole lot talked about, but I'll let the stone do the talking. Have a good one. Bye.